Hello, today we're going to be talking about different levels of spice in novels and what they mean. So, as far as spice, the definition is how much romance is there. Is it intense amounts of romance, or is it little romance, or is it no romance, etc., etc.? And we're also going to talk about what is appropriate in different genres. And age ranges, I should say, for each genre. um, as far as the definition goes, everyone has slightly different definitions, especially publishers. However, these are the generalized definitions that are accepted by the public, and by most publishing houses. So, the first level of spice that we have, there's generally a 5-point scale when it comes to spice. I know most people are like, it's out of 10 for everything. Why is that out of 5 for spice? I don't know, but it is. It's kind of like out of 5 stars, except that we're not rating it on level of goodness. It's just level of intensity. But yeah, generally a 5-point scale. Now, everyone has slightly different variables on this 5-point scale, as I said, but these are general terms that you can use to suggest what might be on your 5-point scale. The first on the 5-point scale is no romance. This is when the most romance you have is maybe a flirty comment or a suggestion of romance or two, or maybe even just a sweet little crush, just the two kids starting to maybe think they have feelings for each other in a high school romance novel, that kind of thing. That's going to be little to no romance, so that's going to be a 1 spicy. It's not spicy at all, if anything. Then you have 2 spicy, which is what's called a sweet romance. This is where the furthest they ever get is holding hands, kissing, and maybe kissing for slightly longer periods of time. No intense kissing, just like perhaps a long kiss. Think Regency romance type era, where they probably aren't doing anything crazy. The craziest they're doing is suggesting they get married, or possibly having a kiss longer than 10 seconds. And even then, they probably aren't doing that unless they're engaged. That's sweet romance, where it's very light, it's very fluffy, it's very much small little romantic gestures, like I said, hand holding or a kiss on the back of the knuckles, or a kiss that's about 10 seconds long. That is sweet romance in a novel. Next is going to be steamy romance. This is when it gets into more they're making out. They are making more forward gestures towards possible other things going on, towards more PG-13 options, but they don't actually show anything. Aside from the making out and intense bits. Like I said, very PG-13-esque types of things going on here. That is going to be your 3 spicy peppers, or your steamy romance. Sometimes things can count as steamy if they have like them talking after it's assumed they've done things, like they do in PG-13 movies sometimes. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it can get there, but it's not always the case. Then there is what's called fade to black. This is when you start out with steamy material, and then you just kind of fade to black, and then the next day they might be waking up together or something like that. So you hint at what's there, but you don't actually give any of what's there. That would be 4 spices. Then, of course, there's the 5th spicy pepper, and I won't even mention that, but you know what that involves. Lots of detail, let's put it that way. Definitely beyond PG-13 movie material at that point. Any and all of this can be useful in literature. I know that some people may disagree with that, but it's just a fact of life that everyone has different tastes, and therefore everyone is going to like different things in literature. If you are going for certain genres, for example, Regency romance, generally you're going to go for sweet romance. But thanks to Bridgerton, there's actually been a massive resurgence in people wanting more fade to black and more steamy and more spicy stuff in their Regency romance. So it can definitely be different, but most people like Regency because it is in the sweet romance category. Aside from that, most people, you can have any spicy for any genre. However, age range is entirely different. For middle schoolers, obviously you don't want it to get anywhere past the sweet romance phase. The sweet romance phase is generally the furthest it goes with middle grade. This is things like in Harry Potter, where, Ron and Hermione might think about asking each other out, and Ron does date Lavender Brown and things like that, and Harry dates Cho Chang, and he even kisses Ginny at one point. Spoilers. Those kinds of things, very sweet romance-esque things, where it's very light, very fluffy, very, very not spicy, very just sweet and delicate romance. Now, young adult novels, it's a giant, massive, confusing mess. With young adult novels, a lot of people think it should be sweet romance as well. I am one of those people who thinks that having sweet romance is generally preferred for younger young adult novels. However, I can see why people might think that steamy is acceptable for some young adult novels, because there are a lot of teenagers that engage in making out and things like that, in which case the steamy stuff makes sense, because that's what that is making out a lot. And teenagers do that a lot. So that being said, if you're writing a young adult novel, I would say don't go past steamy generally. You can go past that if your publisher's okay with it, or if you're okay with it, if you're doing an indie novel. But I would definitely say, if that is the case, mention it on the back of the book. Most people want that kind of thing mentioned on the back of the book if you're going to go beyond steamy. They want to make sure that they aren't getting themselves in over their head and going to get in trouble with their parents, possibly. So make sure that you mention it on the back of the book, or if you're not in charge of that because you're not an indie author, make sure that your publisher makes people aware that that is the case. I would request that. But obviously you're not in charge of that, so if your publisher doesn't make people aware, that's their fault. As far as adult novels goes, it can hit anywhere on here. Anywhere from sweet romance to a crazy, wild stuff. And that's because it's for adults, and at that point, they are making their own decisions, and they aren't expected to be monitored by other adults because they are adults themselves. Now, there is a new age range that's recently come about called New Adult. With New Adult, I've seen a lot of steamy and fade to black. Not so much the other stuff, but it can exist, but steamy and fade to black are the most prevalent to be used there, because it is a new adult novel. They are newly becoming adults and discovering what it means to be adults. It's honestly quite a fascinating new age range as far as that goes with the development of that in the publishing industry. As far as genre types, any genre can have any number of these romance type things. However, you definitely want to make sure your audience knows what they're getting into beforehand most of the time, because you're going to lose a lot of readers if they think that it's a sweet romance and then it turns out to be a fade to black romance, or if they think it's fade to black romance and then they got no romance. That's going to be a problem. So for marketing purposes, if you are an indie author, make sure that you advertise how spicy your book is. Feel free to research other people's tables and other people's opinions on how spicy a book is out of 5 peppers. Usually that's what they do, is they do little pepper emojis for the spiciness of a novel. If you are going to independently publish, make sure you well research what yours might be and what category it might fit under, so that way when you advertise, you can advertise appropriately and people are aware of what they're getting into. As far as that goes, I think that's all I was going to cover today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you'll enter into the contest. We are finishing up all entries on July 31st, and then we're going to start grading on August 1st. I'm so excited. So please turn in your short stories by July 31st. I hope to see loads of entries. I'm very excited for it. Another announcement, due to our budget increase, for my specific division, I asked for it. In January, we're going to be doing a grand prize, and that's going to earn a $50 gift card. That's going to be the best story out of the entire year. Then we're going to do 2 runner-ups for $25 gift cards, one in teen and one in adult. Just because the grand prize winner can be teen or adult, we're just going to pick one out of both categories, and then we're going to do a runner-up for both categories. Then if you're able to come in person, then you have the chance of winning a $15 gift card in the raffle at the end of the night. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be very exciting. You do have to be there in person, though. Unfortunately, I can't just keep drawing names and putting it behind the desk and waiting for someone to pick it up. We have a new rule that with raffles, they have to be there if it's a raffle. If you won a prize, like 3rd place or something like that, I will put it behind the desk for you, but if it is a raffle, you have to be there in person. So I'm going to email everyone who participates what that date is, so that way you can put it on your calendar and make sure to be there for the raffle. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day.